everybody, and welcome back to my channel for this Friday morning, afternoon or evening across the world where you may be at. And today is going to be parts 3 and 4 of the Lewis Barton Emmerdale neurodiverse episodes that I've been doing. And I do have to put a declaration trigger warning out because it's a legal issue here in the UK. The episodes that I'm about to talk about cover the topics of medicinal cannabis. And I have to say this by law because of my country. So cannabis is still illegal here in the United Kingdom. I am not a medic or healthcare professional or anything to do with cannabis or anything related to cannabis. I am a autistic neurodiverse woman giving her opinion on a autistic neurodiverse character. Again, cannabis is still illegal, but medicinal cannabis was made legal here in the UK in November 2018, but it is only given a prescription to certain people. So I researched this in advance on the local NHS, which is the National Health Service here for the UK, and they say the following. NHS UK medical cannabis-based medicines can only be prescribed by a specialist hospital doctor, and is very likely to only be prescribed for a small amount of patients for conditions such as the following: epilepsy, MS, or for patients who are having chemotherapy. A prescription for medical cannabis will only be prescribed when it is believed to be in your best interests or where any other treatments have failed. So that is the NHS UK stance on medicinal cannabis. So I've just had to put that trigger warning out there for people. So let's get into Emmerdale episode 3. Episode 3, Lewis Barton, the neurodivergent character. So in this episode we see Lewis and Ross in the cafe. Ross is opening up to Lewis and Ross is asking for help again. I'm a little concerned why the topic of medicinal cannabis was even being brought up. Is this a topic storyline that they are going to get Lewis involved in with Ross? Is medical cannabis legal here in the UK? Which obviously I've just answered that question. Lewis brings in a huge box of product, medicinal cannabis product, in the box for Ross, because Ross asks him to bring some in. But I am afraid that this storyline is going to have Ross manipulating and using and abusing Lewis for his own dodgy goods and not being genuine brother to Lewis. And Lewis, being a neurodivergent autistic person, could be a potential victim of getting manipulated, used and abused by his so-called brother that could get him into some form of trouble, whether that's legal trouble or just getting him in trouble by other people. So episode 4, which was earlier today, which I just watched and then wrote these notes on, Ross is now with Mackenzie up at the farm, and Mackenzie and Lewis have Lewis outside watching out for people. Lewis then comes into the farm, making Mackenzie and Ross jump. Lewis was like, why am I keeping watch? Again, to me, this is a form of abuse and manipulation that Ross is trying to use him for his own criminal ends and taking advantage of a neurodiverse and autistic person and his special interest of gardening. I personally do not feel that Ross or his relationship to Lewis is a genuine relationship. Unfortunately, people with autism or neurodiversity are often targets of people who have bad intentions or bad intentions towards them. And that the fact he wants to use Lewis's cannabis, medicinal cannabis, potentially for bad ends or illegal situations. Lewis makes a good point here though, when Ross takes him to the cafe and asks it, and the fact that Ross doesn't ask him about what he wants to eat. Again, when you take into account this could be a sensory issue, or the fact that Lewis just wasn't hungry at the time, and then Ross turns around and says, well, I'll eat both the portions of fries then if you're not hungry. This shows that Ross's true intentions are not genuine. Again, he's willing to use and abuse Lewis for his own ends and to steal from his own long-lost brother. I find this to be a truly sick and bad storyline if this is going to be happening to Lewis. I'm surprised that then Mackenzie turns on him as well, and he says that he is his friend. So again, people with autism, unfortunately, we are victims of friendships. People do use and abuse us and make us out to be the weaker people. And I think, again, this is going to be a storyline they obviously follow up with friendships with Lewis and Mackenzie and Ross and others. I think unfortunately, this seems to be a storyline that's going to be about manipulation and power play and abusing someone who potentially seen as the weaker person. And I do worry for this storyline because I don't want it to go the wrong way. I'm hoping it doesn't. I'm hoping it turns around and has a positive spin on things. But again, I am worried as a autistic neurodiverse person that this situation could in fact get worse for Lewis and put him in a situation he doesn't understand or can't cope with, or they get others involved to put pressure on him. And I hope that this isn't so, but so far from what I've seen, it seems that Ross is only in it for his own gains and isn't interested in having the long lost brother relationship with Lewis or with Mackenzie or with anyone in that scene. And I think this is really sad of Ross, to be honest, because at first Ross seemed really interested in having that relationship with Lewis and he seemed to really want to get to know him, but now we're seeing his true intentions, which is really sad because I thought Ross maybe would have been a bit more educated about it. And I think this shows that there is a lack of acceptance around his autism, and I think this is going to be a storyline that is about abuse and manipulation, and I really hope Emmerdale does wake up to the autism acceptance part of it, and hopefully this does turn around. But I am quite worried where this storyline is going to go. But yeah, I just wanted to talk on it because I feel it's important to raise the issue of potential abuse, potential drug abuse. That's why I did put the trigger warning out at the beginning of this video. But yeah, I just want to talk about this because it's something that is important to me as a autistic neurodiverse woman. And yeah, I hope that Emmerdale does keep digging into the autism storyline topic a little bit more and getting us to know Lewis a bit more in detail and knowing his past, his background. I think it'll be quite interesting to know more of his story, where he come from and what he's about, because we haven't really got to know him as a character yet. I think we're only just getting to meet the edge of him. I don't think we've got to meet the full potential character yet. So I hope you've enjoyed this little video. Please like, comment, share and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.